What plays out like a real-life version of high school drama ends not in a principal's office, but in a pool of blood on a suburban street in Florida. This is the tragic case of Sarah Ludman and Rachel Wade, two teenage girls whose bitter rivalry over one boy crossed a deadly line. The root of this obsession was a teenager named Josh Camacho. Standing at just 5 feet 5 inches tall, Camacho was a known player who simultaneously dated both 18-year-old Sarah Ludman and 19-year-old Rachel Wade. The overlapping relationships ignited an intense feud that completely consumed both girls, spawning a volatile cycle of harassment over social media platforms like MySpace, vicious text messages, and physical confrontations. Both girls did everything they could to humiliate each other and protect their standing with the boy they desperately coveted. Rachel Wade's life had already begun to spiral down a defiant path prior to meeting Camacho. Despite having hardworking and supportive parents, she became a chronic runaway, forcing her parents to contact the police 30 or more times. She dropped out of high school, was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and depression, and regularly stayed out all night sleeping in cars or on couches. When she reconnected with Camacho, her attachment quickly transformed into what her own father described as a fatal attraction. The online battle between Rachel and Sarah escalated into a barrage of unhinged death threats. Rachel regularly called Sarah to deliver body-shaming insults and explicit warnings of violence. In one highly damning voicemail that would later become a focal point of her trial, Rachel left a chillingly precise message for her rival, stating that she was going to murder her. Rachel later claimed that she only spoke those words out of a fit of rage to scare Sarah away, but her subsequent actions proved otherwise. The toxic dynamic reached its breaking point on the night of April 14, 2009. Camacho had originally made plans to spend the night at Rachel's apartment, but after a tense conversation regarding his feelings, he shifted his plans and invited Sarah over instead. Sarah updates her MySpace page, borrowed her parents' minivan, and drove to meet him. En route, she drove directly past Rachel's apartment, with witnesses noting a great deal of screaming outside as Sarah shouted for Rachel to stay away from her man. Livid and red hot with fury, Rachel called another boy she was seeing, Javier LeBoy, and went to his house to wait. Her anger fueled an absolute fixation. She briefly left to drive by Josh's sister's house, confirming her suspicions that Sarah and Josh were indeed together. When she returned to LeBoy's house, an acquaintance overheard an enraged Rachel declare that she was going to kill Sarah. Shortly after midnight, Sarah called Rachel on a speakerphone from inside the minivan. Witnesses in the vehicle testified that Rachel explicitly threatened to stab both Sarah and her boyfriend. Sarah decided to drive to a location just blocks away where Rachel was hanging out by her car. Rachel was completely prepared for a physical confrontation. Instead of taking shelter inside the house or calling the police or her parents, she grabbed a kitchen knife from her apartment, marched into the street, and placed the weapon directly on the hood of her vehicle, waiting for the showdown. At around 12:30 in the morning, the minivan screeched to a halt outside the house.